That was my first sip from my brand new cup. And yeah, you remember about 3 days ago I was saying that maybe on Friday we'd have something different? Well, this is what I knew was coming. Well, I didn't know, but I hoped. And it showed up yesterday afternoon. Now, yesterday, I don't know if you can see them from way back where you are, but we put these two little binocular units on. And I was thinking about it this morning, and I thought, they'd show up a lot better if I was to paint them, sort of two-tone. Maybe the seat and the binocular part on the top. Well, I'll put my macro lens back on, and then you'll be able to see what I'm talking about here. So, okay, I was getting all ready to put on my macro lens, and then I realized if I do that, you're not going to get to see my new mug in the background, even though it is a little bit blurred out. Now, yesterday, I was noticing how dusty the deck was. Now, let's hang on a second here. I think that'll help a little bit. Now, how would it be if I was to paint the binocular head, like with the binocular itself, and the seat a darker color, maybe even slightly darker than the deck, the number 77 deck. Speaking of the 77 deck, I want to cover up that little place there where, remember when this one here fell over? Well, the paint had been dissolved from the extra thin, and some of it got onto the deck, and you can see that little spot there. Oh, come on, Ron. Even though I'm probably never going to see it after the superstructure goes on here, let's see if we can't just fix that. Okay, let's see if I can just flood a little bit on there, just on the deck. Maybe that's too much. Okay, now I don't want to touch the unit itself, just the deck. Okay, I think if we leave that, I think once that dries, it'll blend in pretty good. Now, we had just used the 77 here to touch up that spot on the deck, and that's the same as what all of this other decking is here. And I've got something called NATO Black, number 69. And it's not jet black, it's a little bit off black. And I think that will be a good contrast. It will contrast with the deck. It will also contrast with the 66, which is obviously very light. And so let's just give it a try. I'll reset back up, and we'll just touch up the seats and also the binoculars themselves, the head part, I guess you'd call it, on those units. Now, recently I was watching Nigel, and in one of the things that he was trying to do, he made the comment, he says, I know I'm going to get about 15 comments from people telling me that I should be doing this differently. And I just know that I am going to be getting 15 comments from people telling me that, excuse me, my brush is way too big for this. I should be using a smaller brush. Yep, your fingers are too close to the blade. And you know what, guys? They were. Okay, this is the NATO Black. I don't want to be putting it on too much because it's going to dissolve the 66 there. And, okay, now let's do this one here. Now, I know this paintbrush is too big, but it works good for me. Now, if you remember, this is the one here that we had to rebuild. Okay, now the other 16, they should be a lot easier to do because they're still on the masking tape from the spray booth. Okay, now I think what Nigel was trying to say was that what works good for him might not work good for you, and vice versa. And that's the way I feel about this paintbrush. I know that it's actually too big to be using it on stuff that is this small. However, I find it works best for me. Now there's another saying here. Now if you're a cat lover, you're not going to like it, but it goes like this. There's more than one way to skin a cat. Now that's an old saying. Now maybe years ago they used to skin cats. I don't know. Must have come from somewhere. Yeah, that's terrible now that I think about it. Anyway, what I was noticing here when I was setting up is that I'm finding that I'm knocking these things over when I try to brush them. So I'm going to have to find something different here to hang on to these. Maybe if I put it in my pin vise or something like that. It seems to me that Tony suggested that. Put stuff like this in your pin vise, and then you can, turn it around and manipulate it. And let's give it a try. Okay, it is no longer my glue applicator. Now, being as that we're going to be painting the heads of these things anyway, if I get them a little bit scuffed up, it doesn't matter. Just want to be careful I don't break it off. There's probably a much more difficult and awkward way for me to hold this. Okay, I'm trying to hold it for the camera, and makes me look like a complete klutz here. You know what, I think I was turning it the wrong way. No wonder I couldn't get it in. Maybe I am a complete klutz. There we go. See, I can do it. Now, I should maybe add here that I do appreciate the constructive criticism. Okay, I'm not going to try and go all the way around the edge because I'll probably end up getting it onto the bracket part. Okay, let's turn that now. How does that look? Yeah, that's going to look okay from the top. Because the way you're seeing it is the way it's gonna be. If I'm not speaking too clearly, it's because I'm holding the paintbrush in my mouth. Okay, now I'll do the rest of them just like that. Well, for the most part, it did go pretty good. On one of them, however, I did get a little bit of black that I wasn't supposed to. And I also got a little bit on my green cloth here. But I think I've done remarkably well for not getting this thing marked up. I suppose I could always turn the cloth completely around. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Now, when I was looking at these things, I was getting kind of worried. And the reason I was getting kind of worried is because I was thinking, you know what, Ron? I think senility is setting in. Because I was envisioning a pizza joint on Mars. and the Martians all came out delivering the pizza. Now, doesn't that look like little Martian men coming out to, well, I don't know, maybe I got Mars on the brain with so many countries trying to go to Mars, but it sure does look like little creatures coming out carrying pizzas. Yep, senility is setting in. Now here's hoping it goes a little better than the other side did. Oh, got them the wrong way around. Off to a bad start. This one doesn't want to go in quite as good. There it goes. Okay, now once again, I know they're not at the exact same angle. I think so long as I get them straight up and down, they're going to look okay. And from my perspective, they look okay. Now all of the pieces that we sprayed here yesterday, I think it was yesterday, go on in 44 right here in this section. I think I may have mentioned that. And our friend Mark in Australia noticed that I had made these little lights, and when I put them together I got the lenses the wrong way on one of them. But you know what? It's so small that we're not even going to notice that. Well, you only notice it when you look at it through the macro lens. So I think I'm just going to go ahead and put these on now. And they go right here and right here. I'm trying not to scratch it. Okay, I think I'll just leave them on there. Yeah, you can see that the lens is facing this way on this one, and on this one it's facing the other way. Mind you, it got filled with paint anyway. Oh no, you can see it. Well, we're not going to be able to see it. Kind of bent it a little bit, it looks like here. Oh, maybe I'll be able to straighten it out once it's mounted on the railing. Now this is the one here that has the lens facing out. And this side of the ship here is the side that's going to be exposed in the case. Uh-oh. Anybody see where it went? Okay, about 5 minutes has passed here. I thought, well, this is easy. I'll just run the video back and see where it went. But it just sort of all of a sudden quickly disappeared, and I didn't see where it went, but I have found it. After looking on the floor and getting kind of worried, it's right under here. I think that if I very carefully lift up on the okay. Yeah, that's part of the fun, right? Okay, let's try this again. Where were we? Get this out of the way. Now, we want to have it so that the louvered part of the lens is looking out. So it's got to go in here like this. I'll put the macro lens on so you can see what's going on. I'll just set it down here for the time being where we won't lose it. Okay, I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of CA in that hole there. But first I want to just see how tight is this going to fit. That's not a good way to grab it. Let's grab it like this here. Whoops. No, try not to scratch the paint off. Now there should be a hole there. Oh, I see. It's more of a slot than a hole. You know what? It's okay. I can see now what's happening. This is not a hole. It's just a little slot that shows where that thing is supposed to go. That's going to be hard. You know what? I think I'm going to cheat a little bit on this. I think I'm going to find a very small drill bit and just drill a little tiny hole in there. Well, I guess I'll turn it this way. Okay, looks like about 17 thousandths, 18 thousandths. I'm pretty sure I've got a bit that small. Even if it's just a little bit bigger, actually if it's bigger it's a good idea. Okay, this one is 23. I'm going to go for the bigger one. Well, let's see if I can find a small one. I'm pretty sure I do have smaller bits. There's one in there if I can just grab hold of it. Okay, this one's a little smaller. See what our diameter is going here. Well, it's about the same. It's a 22. Well, I'm going to just go with the 22 here and see what happens. Okay, I think what I'll do is I'm not going to use my cordless drill. I'm going to use the pin vise. Keep everybody happy. Now, as those of you who have been watching me for the last 2 years know, model making, I'm not a professional at it. But I am pretty good in the workshop. And I'm going to give you a little tip here. There's no use me giving tips about model making because it'll probably be wrong. But when it comes to machines and drill bits, if you can choke up on your bit, and that goes for any bit regardless of the diameter. Now, of course, a larger bit, you can't choke up on it because it just won't go up into the chuck. But if you get it in as reasonably far as you can, okay, and just have it sticking out just as much as you need there, and then tighten it up, there is less chance of snapping your bit off because there's a lot less leverage. And if you do snap it off, in all likelihood, there's going to be a little bit of the flutes left, and a little bit like this, we just might be able to use it even if we broke it off. But now, I don't think we're going to break it off. I'm going to try and be careful. I can actually use a cordless drill in a case like this better than I can with my hands. But I'm going to just try it here. I'll put the macro lens on. Okay, now I'll see if I can turn this without putting any lateral force on it. It doesn't seem to be going in, does it? I wonder if that... I know I had a couple of bits and one was dull and one was sharp. I should have thrown out the dull one. I'll bet you anything this is it. You know what? I'm going to change bits. That's terrible. That should have been in about 4 turns. Okay, this is a different bit. I think it's been broken, but it looks sharp. Let's see what happens here now. I'm going to have to just reposition this on my tweezer. Now, is that going to go in there? Okay, I have to try and glue it. Alright, why don't I just glue it like that? And then after the little blob of CA has cured, I can just bend the whole thing forward. Although, how does that look? No, that's not right. Oh. Okay, it went under the hull again, but at least this time not as far. Now this is CA thin. I don't know if I've got enough. I'd like to get it in that hole there. There we go. Now I did have this in my tweezers and I had it positioned just right and then I dropped it. Oh my. Well, that looks good from my perspective. It's kind of aiming out to the side and slightly to the bow. And speaking of perspective, this is just for perspective. Well, here is what's happened. I was trying to put the second one on the other side, and when I was positioning it in my tweezers, it sort of pinged off on me and landed on the floor. Now, I did find it, so that was good news. But the bad news, as you can see, is that the piece of photo etch, the little bracket part, like the tongue or whatever you want to call it, that comes out of right here, it's broken off. Now, I think that may have happened when it hit the floor because it doesn't look to me like it's been scuffed around or anything like that. Otherwise, it would be completely mangled. Anyway, now there is good news in that I can now put it on in such a way that the louvered side is facing out. It's just that it's not going to be, sitting quite right on the railing. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. I don't know if I'm going to do that today or if I'm going to call this video quits here. Well, I better quit poking anyway, I know that. Okay, I was debating, do I turn the ship around or do I take the camera and put it over on the other side? And as you can see, I chose to put the camera on the other side. I just want to try and grab hold of this so that it's not going to ping off on me. It's going to have to go right here. I'll put the macro lens back on. I'll get this turned at just the right orientation here so that I can pick it up after I get the little bit of extra CA glue on there, CA thin. A little bit of a burr on that. Anyway, yeah, I'll get the macro lens back on and now I don't have too long here because this will start to set up. I want the louvers looking out. I'm just going to set it on there. There, something like that. That's better than nothing. And in all likelihood, we're going to end up breaking that off anyway. Well, maybe not, if I'm careful. Here it is. Bet you can't even see it. We are done for today. We are so done for today. Thanks for watching. And all being well, we'll see you tomorrow.